Chapter 14 on Beneath the Billionaire's Mask. Oslo, morning after the exhibit. Eliana hadn't expected the world to notice so quickly. Her painting, Blueprint of a Man Who Chose Light, had gone viral overnight. Someone at the Oslo Collective had streamed the unveiling. A short clip of her standing across the room from Damian, quiet, powerful, and vulnerable, was now plastered across arts blogs, Twitter, and even tech media. Some called it the rebirth of modern romanticism. Others called it the taming of a billionaire. Damian, for his part, seemed unbothered. "I've been called worse," he said with a shrug, sipping his coffee. Eliana, however, couldn't stop pacing. "It's too fast," she muttered. "I didn't ask for this." "You didn't have to," Damian said, watching her. "Truth doesn't need permission." She glanced at him, the line between admiration and irritation blurring. "You're awfully calm about all this." He set the mug down. "Eliana, you turned your grief into something beautiful. Of course the world's going to want a piece of it." She crossed her arms. "Yeah, that's the part that scares me." Later, that day, the gallery press room. The Oslo Collective had invited her to do a press Q&A. She'd declined at first. Damian encouraged her to reconsider, gently and then more firmly. "They'll ask questions anyway," he said. "Better they hear it from you than fill in the blanks." Eliana relented. The room was smaller than she feared, but the questions weren't. "Are you and Damian Wolf officially together? How involved was he in this piece? Do you consider your work political, emotional, or both? Was this your way of defending his legacy?" She tried to stay calm, measured. But the last question hit her differently. "I'm not here to defend anyone," she said slowly. "I painted a man I know, a man the world thinks it understands, but doesn't. And you're not concerned about being seen as his muse?" That word curled in her stomach like spoiled wine. "No," she said, jaw tight. "Because I'm not inspired by him, I see him." "That's not the same thing." The room went quiet. One reporter at the back nodded. "Well said." Back at the hotel. That night, Damian found her on the balcony, arms wrapped tightly around herself, staring at the snow-lit city. He stepped beside her. "You were brilliant today." She didn't answer immediately. Finally, she whispered, "Do you ever feel like you're being used?" Damian looked at her. "All the time. By the world? By expectations, headlines, my own ego sometimes." She turned to face him, tears threatening. "I'm scared that everything I make now will be about you, that they won't see me. Just the woman who got close enough to touch the myth." Damian stepped forward, brushing a curl from her cheek. "Then remind them who you are." She blinked. "What if I forget?" He touched her chest, right over her heart. "Then I'll remind you." And she leaned into him, fiercely, needing the promise more than she wanted to admit. The next morning, a new offer. They were packing to leave Oslo when her phone buzzed. Unknown number, international code. She almost ignored it, until the message preview caught her eye. "Ms. Moore, we represent Galerie Delacroix in Paris. We would like to commission you privately for an exhibit inspired by the Wolf era. Name your price." Eliana stared at the screen. Damian glanced over. "Something wrong?" She hesitated, and for the first time, she lied. "Just another gallery request," she said lightly, locking the screen. "Nothing urgent." Damian nodded, distracted by a call from Hart. But inside, Eliana's thoughts twisted, because that message didn't just want her art, it wanted the myth of them, and that scared her more than any villain ever had. Paris. 3 days later. They had barely unpacked their bags in Brooklyn when the invitation from Galerie Delacroix arrived formally, along with a ticket to Paris, a reserved studio space in Montmartre, and a blank check. It was the kind of opportunity artists dreamed of, and Eliana couldn't bring herself to celebrate. "They want a series," she told Damian one night. 5 pieces, all inspired by us. He was quiet, too quiet. "They phrased it like that?" he finally asked. She nodded, unsure how to read the tightness in his jaw. "You okay?" Of course, he said too quickly. But she knew better. Brooklyn, Wolf's brownstone. The old brownstone in Brooklyn Heights had become their sanctuary. Quiet, window lit, filled with art supplies, books, and mornings that smelled like coffee and skin, but now it felt exposed. Damian returned from a brief meeting with Hart to find Eliana alone in the dining room, scrolling, dozens of articles, op-eds, speculation. Is more profiting off the Wolf legacy? When the muse becomes the marketer. From tragedy to tabloid, can grief be monetized? He stood in the doorway without speaking. She didn't notice him at first until her finger froze on the screen. Damian, he crossed the room, gently taking the phone from her hand. Don't read them. I can't help it. He cupped her cheek. Eliana, they only get louder when you listen. But they're saying I used you, that I turned your name into a brand. His voice darkened. I am a brand, always have been, but you're not using anything. You're becoming. That scares people. She blinked back tears. Does it scare you? No, he said firmly, but it scares you. Later. That night they lay in bed, quiet. Eliana's head on his chest. Damian's fingers tracing circles on her back. Are you proud of me? She asked suddenly. He looked down, startled. What? She propped herself up on her elbow, eyes open and searching. Are you really proud, or are you just relieved it's not you under the microscope this time? Damian sat up slightly. Eliana, he said carefully, I am proud of you. Fiercely, but I won't lie, it's hard sometimes, watching you be everywhere when I spent most of my life hiding from being seen. She swallowed hard. Then maybe we're both scared of the same thing. What's that? Being loved for the wrong reasons. The Paris decision. The next morning, Eliana stood in her studio, staring at the first empty canvas for the Delacroix series. And then, without picking up a brush, she walked away. She found Damian in the kitchen. I'm not going, she said. He turned, confused. Not going where? Paris, the commission. I'm not doing it. He set his coffee down. Why not? Because I don't want my art to be about managing other people's ideas of us. I want it to stay mine. Damian took a step toward her. Eliana, this is your career. Don't let my presence in your life shrink it. I'm not, she said. I'm choosing how I want to grow. He stared at her, then nodded. You sure? She smiled, finally calm. For the first time in weeks. A message from the past. That night, as Damian stepped onto the balcony to take a late call, Eliana received an email. No sender listed. Just a line of text in the subject. You don't know everything about the man you love. And an attached photo. She clicked it. The image loaded slowly, grainy, time-stamped from a decade ago. Damian, younger, in a boardroom. Beside him, a woman with striking eyes and an arm draped casually over his shoulder. The caption burned like a wound. Former Wolf Labs co-founder, thought dead. Coming back for what's hers. Eliana stared, the screen blurred, and all she could think was, who is she? And why did Damian never mention her? Brooklyn, midnight. The apartment was dark except for the soft glow of Eliana's phone screen. She sat on the couch, fingers numb, heart pounding. She'd stared at the photo for nearly an hour. Damian had always been honest. At least she thought he had. But the woman beside him in the image, there was no mistaking the familiarity in that posture. The ease, the closeness. The name in the caption kept flashing in her mind. Co-founder. Which meant she hadn't just been a friend or a colleague. She'd helped build Wolf Labs. Why hadn't Eliana heard her name before? Why had Damian erased her? The lock clicked. Eliana quickly locked her screen and stood. Damian entered quietly, setting down his jacket. He looked tired but warm, his presence still softening the air around him. Couldn't sleep? He asked gently. No, she said. Her voice sounded strange even to her own ears. You? He shook his head. Call ran late. Something about old investor filings surfacing. Legacy stuff. She nodded, her mouth dry. Damian, yeah? She hesitated, then lied. Nothing, just glad you're home. but her mind screamed, "Who is she?" The next day, questions, with no answers. Eliana couldn't focus. She tried to paint. The strokes felt hollow, tried to journal. The words fell flat. Finally, she opened her laptop and searched the woman's name, Amara Langford. There wasn't much, almost like someone had buried her online presence, but a few archived tech forums had her name listed beside Wolf's in early startup registries. Early concepts of an adaptive AI interface. A few press clippings from nearly 12 years ago. Then, nothing. Vanished. And the one photo in that email was nowhere else, which meant someone had held on to it, someone who wanted Eliana to see it now. Confrontation. That night, after dinner, Eliana couldn't hold it in any longer. She placed her phone on the table and turned to Damian. "Who is Amara Langford?" The silence was instant and telling. Damian slowly set down his glass of wine. He didn't ask how she knew. Just said quietly, "Where did you hear that name?" Eliana's heart sank. "So it's true," he nodded. "Yes, it's true." "Then tell me everything," she said. "Please, before I find out from someone else." Damian's truth. He took a long breath. "She was my first co-founder, and my first love." Eliana froze. She helped design the earliest version of what became Fractal, back when it was just an idea scribbled on whiteboards. And she wanted to push it harder, faster. We argued over ethics, over scope, but more than anything, over control. His voice grew distant. After a massive falling out, she disappeared. I thought she'd moved to Zurich. Then I heard she died. Car crash. It was never confirmed, but he trailed off. "So you buried it?" Eliana said softly. "Her. The story. The part of your past that didn't fit the clean version." Damian looked at her, pain in his eyes. "I buried it because I didn't want her to come back. A threat reawakens." Later that night, Eliana couldn't sleep. She stepped out onto the balcony and opened the message again. This time, a second image had appeared. New, undeniable. Amara, older but unmistakable, stepping out of a sleek black car in Geneva. A date stamp from just 3 days ago. The email's subject line now read, "You can paint the myth." But I remember the man, and beneath it, "He doesn't belong to you. He never did." Eliana's chest tightened. This wasn't just a resurfacing. This was a warning. Final scene, Damian's study. Damian stood alone in his study, the fireplace flickering behind him. On his desk, a box. Inside, an old sealed envelope he hadn't opened in years. His name was written on the front in sharp, deliberate handwriting. He picked it up, hesitated, then opened it. Inside, a single phrase scrawled in ink. "Did you really think I'd let you win?" He closed his eyes and whispered, "She's back." Stay tuned for more chapters on this story. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell-like icon to get notified when we post on this channel. Thanks for watching.